Hi, this is Paul Zajac, and welcome to Battle Reaction. This is a show where we watch one of our previous boss battles and have a guest commentator. Today, I'm super happy to have with me a longtime co-host of the official Dungeons & Dragons podcast, Dragon Talk, Greg Tito. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited. It was a long journey, almost like a D&D campaign of us trying to schedule this interview, and I'm glad we
Yeah.
finally defeated the real boss, which is
Scheduling, right? Yeah. Somebody said that to me the other day, and I guess it's just a truism. Yeah, that's the real boss
Yeah.
battle, scheduling. Okay, so again, thanks again. And so I guess about 6 months ago, you departed from Wizards, and then were working for the Washington State government, and now have landed again in gaming for Ravensburger, and you're working on Disney Lorcana. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
exactly. Yeah, very happy to be the communications director for Lorcana. It's a fantastic card game if you haven't tried it and you love Disney. Jump in. It's got all the strategic depth of any other card game out there, but with that added bonus of having really cute, fun characters on it. So, yeah,
That's
I'm
great.
excited to spread the word.
Yeah,
And do all the stuff
I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and so and she's into card games. We haven't played Lorcana. I'm definitely now going to go play some Lorcana because I have an inside connection now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to watch some clips. This is from one of our previous battles called Whispering Green. Let's just switch over and we'll start our first clip. Hogar goes, all right, gang, this is Daryl Two Shoes and his associate. And the other guy nods and introduces himself as Jimmy No Hands. You see that Jimmy No Hands is kind of like fidgeting, like twisting. He's twisting his hands, but where his hands would be, there are no hands. Petrie, you notice, because you're a well-traveled ranger, that Gerald Two Shoes is wearing a pin of the Harpers. He walks up to Hogar and he's like, "Well, thanks for bringing your team." And Hogar jumps in. He goes, "Yeah, well, sometimes we do contract work for different groups." And Daryl says, "Yes, your group has a little more latitude to get things done than the Harpers do sometime." So Daryl turns to Jimmy and he goes, "Jimmy, why don't you tell him what's going on?"
Love that.
Okay, so there we saw Daryl Two Shoes. Was he initially one of was he a player character for you, or did you invent him for the Dragon Talk campaign?
We actually, Shelly and I played in a lunchtime campaign, and those were the characters that we were excited to play for the Tomb of Annihilation storyline. We loved the idea of them being from the same litter,
Right.
and growing up together and then having this adventuring career together. That campaign kind of, as unfortunately many do, kind of sputtered and stopped once people got busy during their work lives, and so we were not able to continue. But we always loved that connection. And then when we were trying to develop something to do at the end of Dragon Talk to be a button, it's always hard to kind of figure out, where do you end? How do you end? Some people, we had a catchphrase for a while, and we're like, what if we just did these like quick little 5-minute sessions, and then that'll be our way to get out. Of course, they weren't always 5 minutes. They ended up being sometimes 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how much was going on. But yeah, no, they were characters that we had made for another campaign that we adapted to playing in more that one-on-one session.
It was super fun for me to have Daryl as like a cameo, and I really do like that about D&D and RPGs in general, that you can, it's open to stealing stuff, right? Let's take something from somewhere else and throw it in there, and that's all fair game. And I was going to ask you about famous cameos, just because having worked at Wizards, like you got all that lore to deal with. Anyone strike your mind as coming in that you got to play with as a famous cameo?
Yeah, I love the way you describe that because it does add to the feel of the game being beyond what's at the table, which I think is something that I really love about Dungeons and Dragons. Like here, you have your personal story, but anything that ties into anything that's in the shared zeitgeist feels great, and I think that's why
Right.
settings like the Forgotten Realms and the Sword Coast feel so alive for everyone, is because there's 30, 40 years of history built up, not only from the published things, but even things that people have played, right? And so they might have,
Right.
interacted with some of those characters and stuff like that. So, thank you so much for including Daryl Two Shoes in that canon. I never probably would have done that, but I appreciate and love that is continued out there in the world and has, does that for someone. My own personal time, and this is, you know. Uh, Probably feels a little bit like I'm pandering or something like that. But there was one time at Wizards where two extremely well-known authors, game designers, were consulting on something. Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman,
Oh, wow.
and I got to play in a game with them playing as their characters, and my favorite
Oh,
one was Margaret Weiss playing as Tasselhoff barefoot.
wow.
Was just a dream come true, right? Like having
Yeah,
that
right.
experience of reading the original Dragonlance Chronicles when I was a
Yes,
kid,
me too.
10, 12 years old. I think I've said this on Dragon Talk before, but I had to hide these books from my parents, almost like they were something, surreptitious, or that the
Right,
fact that they
right,
had something out there. And so being able to have the actual, not only the author, but playing that character
right. With the
that I
character.
know and loved so much, alongside, I don't even remember the character that I was playing, but I remember that it was just so fun to see them interact. And, they were very rules light in how they were playing too, because they played every edition so far. And so like the fifth edition stuff, they're like, can I just do this thing? You tell me how to do it. Okay, great.
Right.
So they didn't care about the ins and outs of the rules because they've been through it so many times, but the characters still came through. And the part that I remember the most was we were in a just a little bit of a downtime. We were sitting around a fire after we had done one encounter, and we were moving to the next one. And Margaret Weiss, just as Tasselhoff, just goes like, "Yeah, I just go into I think it was actually Joe Manganiello. Joe Manganiello's pack, and I steal something from his pack, some food or something."
Nice. Yeah. That,
So I was like, "That's perfect."
right. Yeah. I think what you said that it just it having these cameos really makes you feel joined to part of a larger story, and then you get to
Yeah,
experience that personally. Like you were like not in the same universe, you were like right next to Tasselhoff, which is like really really special. Wow, that is such a
totally.
great experience. Okay, we're going to move on to our next clip. We're basically, I'm just looking at one turn from each of the players in this battle, and it worked
Yeah.
out that there was something good that I liked about all of them. So let's take a look at the next one. It's the Druid, played by Betsy. Her character is Ducky.
For my bonus action, I'm going to use my starry form. I'm going to choose the dragon. So a constellation of a wise dragon will appear on me.
Okay,
It's going to help me maintain concentration on this fairy fire. I can treat any concentration rolls of 9 or lower as a 10.
nice.
And then I'm going
Anything
to
else?
scooch back just a little bit, and that's my turn.
So I think I thought a lot about this clip, and then when I rewatched it again, what I really liked most about it was just how she ended it, and that's my turn. Just this feeling of contentment, and it came on the back of like she did 3 supportive things. She cast Fairy Fire, then she guarded herself against having her concentration disrupted, and then tucked herself away and was so
Yeah.
happy about it. And so my question is like, I'm just not like that. Like I'm not a good player. I'm not strategic, and I'm like getting in there and just doing it. And so I thought, because you've been playing, you had so many more years of playing, and also in your experience as a dungeon master, do you think that support characters are support characters because that's how they are as people, or do they find it in the game? Or is it most things in life? Is it both?
I think it's definitely both. I think it has to do both with the conception of the character that you're putting forth. So, like a druid, especially one that is with that subclass, like has great things to do in support, and you can only really make your entire party shine by being able to drop into those roles and cast those spells that you know may not have tons of dice to roll to do tons of damage, but have a multiplying effect on other people's actions. And I
Yeah.
think that's the beauty of the game is seeing how those interactions can happen, and unforeseen combinations can lead to great results. And there's something that just clicks in everybody's brain when it happens. Now,
Right.
I think the thing that some players have when they're playing support characters is that it's not that instant gratification, right? You don't get that feeling of I did something amazing that turn. Right. And so it's really kind of, I like that you mentioned the fact that she said as a player, like, okay, that's my turn. And there was a bit of satisfaction there, because that's often not the case. The case is like the actual gratification comes a turn or maybe 2 or 3 later, or sometimes, and this is just the sad case with support, it doesn't happen at all. Right. And you're like, hey, I did this thing. I bumped up the volleyball for you and you didn't spike it down.
Right.
Sometimes that occurs with support characters, and that can feel not as awesome. But to go back to your point about whether it's a personality type in people, I think it definitely is true. I have heard a lot of players say that they gravitate towards one archetype or other because of who they are, who they are as people. And they don't like playing certain archetypes because it's too antithetical to their being. I've certainly also talk to tons of players who like, hey, that's the part I like about it, is that once you get a mastery of the game, and I don't mean in like you're better than anyone else, but once you get like a sense of how each class works and fits together, the fun is trying different ones and different combinations and seeing if they work or not, or if they work in specific situations or not. And so I've certainly talked to tons of folks who only play healers or only play more skill-based characters because they want to be the ones that shine in those particular moments as support for the more combat or damage dealing folks out there. So it depends on so many things. But I always appreciate, and I love seeing this clip because it is that perfect setup moment. It is like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this Faerie Fire spell. Faerie Fire is just in general an unused part of the game that is just such a bonus to so many situations, right? Being able to see invisible and get that bonus, or what is it, the saving throw bonus? So like, it's so great in many ways, and I want more people to use it, and hopefully this clip will be more people will going forward.
And there was in one of our previous battles that there was a character that had cast Faerie Fire, and then I went back and looked through it, and basically it was like 1/3 of the damage that was done to the monster after that spell was cast was because the advantage that spell added. So it is huge, right? And so we got to recognize that's your damage, not something else. Okay, great. So let's move on. We'll take it to our next clip.
So if I understand correctly, I'm at the bottom of a 12 to 15 foot pit, grappled and prone with Myers.
We're going to say that the grapple was broken in the fall, so you're no longer grappled.
Very generous DM.
And Myers is covered in like star glitter.
Yes, that's right. Faerie Fire.
Okay. Then Petrie is going to stand up. He's going to hold his staff up high. I shall smite you! Cast Hunter's Mark with the bonus action. Okay. And to try and put an end to Myers.
Very good.
Have advantage. Oh, I needed that advantage. Instead of a nat 1, that is a total of 24 to hit.
Nice. Faerie Fire worked. Yeah. Once again, that spell giving advantage. Okay. What's your damage? Oh, so you get 11, right? You're doing
11 force damage plus 5 force damage from Hunter's Mark plus 3 psychic damage from the subclass feature.
Wow. So it's like 19 total, right?
Yeah, 19.
Okay. And so you crash down on Myers' head with the shillelagh, and you split his skull, and like these disgusting, smelly brains just kind of like splash out onto you as he like topples to the floor. So you got brains all over you, but you have destroyed Myers. Myers is down to 0 hit points. And are you doing anything else?
Boy, I'm glad I have magic to clean this up later. Then I'm going to start climbing up the walls and get out of there.
Okay. All right.
And with my 45 feet of movement, that'll be like 30 feet to get to the top. And then I don't want to get kicked down, so I'm going to take a step away.
Hang on. Let me just give you a little more perspective on where you are, just so you know that Humorous is there, if that makes any difference to where you want to place yourself.
I'm intentionally trying to draw aggro from Humorous relative to the rest of the party, yes.
Wow, even while off the screen, you had him like in your mind's eyes, like the chess player. Okay. So Bill, who is a friend of mine, and I want to identify him as a friend because now he's like famously has a writing credit on the new Dungeon Dudes book. Well done, Bill.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? And so he's playing a ranger, and there was a lot of like commentary about the rangers, and they're the least loved. I think it's safe to say by a lot of people of the kind of revisions that were done for 2024. So like this is an example of like all the great things that the ranger can do, right? He's modifying his attack with shillelagh. He's using Hunter's Mark, and then he's using Deadly Strikes. So he's stacking all these things. And then he just does other great things that a great player can do, using his movement, interposing himself in between himself and a monster to save some of the more squishy people. So a really effective turn, and he's a ranger. It was funny that there was like a schoolyard pick of people when they were, because we're playing a league, and so there had to be one of each class represented. The last class to be picked was the ranger, and so he took ranger. He's played him before, and so my question was like, you were close to people who were designing this game, and you were kind of I'm sure on conversations about it. When there is is it the case that there is some perception of like disparity of power between different classes, and people are like, so what? It's a game, and like this is still really fun. We're gonna do it anyway, or is it not like that? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can't go too far into the weeds on the individual design kind of way they work. Kudos to that team. They have a ton of information at their fingertips, and they use it all. And so I think one thing that I think everybody should be aware of is what you see and hear online is very different than other data points that might be on there. And I think we might have a little bit of a Streisand effect happening with the Ranger, where or a Mandela effect, maybe a combination of both of those together, in that like people, the narrative around that just got bigger than the actual
issue.
Feel, the effectiveness of the class in particular situations, just as you're able to say right there. Anecdotally, so much was accomplished in that one turn, just based on the, not even some kind of extra uber, min-maxing that was happening, right? It's just like, no, right. This is just what the character is supposed to be able to do. I love Rangers. I think Rangers are fantastic, mostly in almost all iterations of the game. My favorite character, probably the longest played character I did, was a Ranger full class, no multi, in 3.5. And was able to do tons amount of damage just from picking things that were right for the campaign. So it was an undead. It was the Age of Worms campaign, so I was able to do a whole bunch of damage against undead because we're going to be facing a whole bunch of undead.
Right.
And so I think with optimal choices, Rangers can be super effective. Now, I think maybe what's happening is that people, the conception of the archetype doesn't match the optimal choices that they might make when building that character, and then you end up feeling with expectations not being met for whatever reason. But in general, I think they're super fun, and they have a real great thematic niche that they fill, right? That kind of tracker that speaking with animals and being connected to nature is such a really powerful vision that people have in him. So I think that Rangers are awesome, and we should continue to use them. And I'm sad that they got picked last because I don't think they should have been.
Right.
And that could just be the player preference within your group. That actually makes it way more of why that happened.
Oh, I mean that as well was, I think, anecdotal, and I'm not sure that it doesn't say anything. It just was part of this the story of what happened. I think that what you said that Rangers have such a other role to play narratively, and especially in the discovery or pillar of Dungeons and Dragons, adventuring, tracking. Those are things that don't show up in combat, and this. My show Boss Battles is artificial in that we're like looking at a battle, right? And so you don't get to see all the other fun stuff. But it is interesting how, and I think you're right that things roll. Like people love to hate things, right? And so they're like, what can we hate? Oh, it's the Ranger. So we're gonna hate. Anyway. I'm really interested to see. That's one thing about this. How we're organizing this league is that it's one battle for each level. So we're going to get to see the characters advance in the different tiers. So I'm really interested to see in the upper tiers, like who shines. Well, we know like wizards are going to shine, and just because their spells are going to be awesome at that level. But then in terms of like the martial characters. Are they all really great? Or do we notice gaps? So we'll see.
We're gonna take a swing at Reginald.
Okay.
Because F that guy.
What did I ever do to you? Says Reginald.
A lot.
I just wiped out half your hit points. All right, let's get him. Come on, big bucks. Oh my god, 11.
No, that's a miss. Okay. Anything else?
Should have been more reckless.
Right. So that's a question. Reckless attack. It came up because I don't think this character recklessly attacked. I think he had like 5 or 6 turns, and if he did recklessly attack, it was on one of them. And initially, I'd had all this. I was like, with this segment was going to go into like the math and then the advantage curve, which is kind of interesting to look at. And then as I was rewatching it again yesterday, I had this thought like as I'd put it previously, like if you're are the old barbarians going to the young ones? No, you're missing the point. It's not the recklessly attack; it's that you're recklessly taking damage, and that we're missing the part of that. Perhaps as important as hitting hard is for barbarians is being a lightning rod and just like saving it and going back to that support role. There's are they like the under the radar support character, right? Just by standing there, they're doing their job.
I think barbarians are best suited when the player loves being an instigator. Like when they are the one who wants to bash that door in and make it happen. I feel like that's always my favorite times I've played with a barbarian is when the conception matches the player in how they play the game. Now that said, I have played with barbarians who think about it more in the lithe, slinky, thief-like Conan Barbarian ways.
Oh, right.
Where,
yes.
like, you can certainly play them that way as well, and they're super effective. But those are only effective if you have, the healer or the other tank or the off tank, as they used to call it in in World of Warcraft boss battles, right? That you have like, okay, you have one, but if that guy goes down, you have another one
Right.
that can step up right away and still absorb some things. And if you play as a barbarian and you're playing with three more squishy characters, and you go down first, well, then you have not been very effective in your recklessly attacking. So yeah. Well, just like every class, they are more effective when they know and adapt to the player group that they're playing with.
Yes, right. And so I guess beyond thinking about the importance of reckless attack or versus just being a lightning rod, I did want I went out onto the internet, which is probably a bad thing to do to like talk about it. And there's
you
really
were a barbarian and you charged into the internet.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I got slapped. Very opinionated, opinions about it. I think some people said, and I think it was probably true. Like, listen, you're playing a barbarian. Barbarians don't want anything to do with thinking about whether or not they should recklessly attack. Yes, they should. That's what a barbarian does, and I think that feeds in narratively is right for a barbarian. Just thinking about the math a little bit, I think it's the case. You shouldn't recklessly attack if there's some other way for you to get advantage, like if the creature in front of you has fairy fire on them, you're just giving a disadvantage. You don't need to do that. Or I think if you're surrounded, in that you get a bonus to hit like one person or however many attacks you have, but they've got in return like 8 bonuses to hit you. I think when I tried to do the math, it came really close to be like, if you're thinking of not recklessly attacking, you should probably be leaving because you're outnumbered.
Yeah. Or if you have that extra support of a fighter
Right.
beside you, right? Like that's where again I think you can be a little bit more reckless in your reckless attack, because there's not the risk reward, right? So the risk is low because you have another fighter who can help out and protect the other parts of the party, but your reward is super high with reckless attack. And
that's one thing I miss about
right?
Yes. I was going to say I miss about the 2014 Zealot Barbarian in that like it was easier for them to come back if they were dead. And that you can really be reckless. It doesn't matter. I'm coming back. I'm coming back, baby. Okay. So I'll be back. Right. Yes. Terminator, Conan connection.
Right. We all knew it was there.
What are you doing?
It's going to kind of glance over at where Petrie is. You okay, buddy?
He's paralyzed now. That's why he's making weird noises. Trying to let's see. Yeah, you're too far away to get there.
Yeah, I am. Dang it!
So you're too far away to get there and hit and take an action.
Yeah, and hit. Yeah, but you know what? Getting there is at least getting there. So,
getting there is getting there.
We're gonna go.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
So you're gonna dash over to
Kruger. I am.
Okay. All right.
I think it gets me here.
A dash will get you all the way, right? You
it will. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm coming.
Okay. Are you doing anything else? You've taken your move. Yeah, you've taken the dash action.
Yeah. No, I take the dash as my
Okay. No bonus actions. All right.
That's smart. That's a smart move.
Yeah. So I think it would be easy to look at that in with the eyes of somebody like me who's just like that character did nothing. Like movement is nothing. They just moved, right? Which is actually when I had time to like think about it. That is not the case at all. I really like that she's a Oath of Devotion paladin, and like she's doing something really heroic in that she runs out to save her friend. In the next turn, that monster attacks her instead of attacking the paralyzed other player. So it was something, and I think it's easy to overlook that. And I thought it was just a really nice move for a paladin to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's something I don't know if it's necessarily the smartest thing to do sports analogies here, but I have been coaching basketball with a woman who is a much better basketball player than I am, and she was growing up. She's been telling this to the girls that we've been coaching, which is she was a scorer, and in which she used to feel bad about taking shots because you get called a ball hog and blah, blah, blah. And then something clicked inside her where she was like, if I'm not taking shots, I'm actually hurting the rest of the team. Because I'm not fulfilling my role on the team. And so it may seem like you're being nice, you're not taking shots, but you're making the team fail by doing that. Now, I think that's exactly what's happening here, and that the Paladin's role is to take attacks, right? Like, sure, of course, it always feels good to do some damage. Like, you don't want your frontline fighters to not attack or do a killing blow every once in a while. But a paladin, especially with a devotion paladin, I'm assuming she's got a shield and all that. Yeah. That's what their role is. Their role is to take hits, and any hit that you're taking is a hit that is not going against the wizard or going against the squishy things. And so she is fulfilling that role to a T by going. Spike is fulfilling that role by going in there and making it happen, and that is amazing.
Yeah, right. The best offense is a good defense. That always passes me by, but it's just I think true, and I don't know. Again, I guess with this episode, the more I went back to look at it, the more I was like impressed with the generous play of the other people, and that's something I like in general about Dungeons and Dragons. I think because it's a game we're available to be our best selves, away from other pressures in our lives that put demands on us, we can do heroic and nice things, and it's a good feeling,
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I want to get over the feeling, because you were mentioning too, like, it feels like she didn't do anything that turn, or they didn't do anything that turn, right? Because it was just movement. And I think there is a style of play that says, okay, I did my move, I did my main action, I did my bonus action. Is there anything else I can do? I need to make sure I go through my checklist of everything I need to do each turn. And that's not a bad way of thinking about it, but I would love for more players, even ones who are more tactical or strategic, to not think about your turn as a checklist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And think about it more in like, how are you fulfilling your role in this battle? And it's all right especially for a character that is much more positionally oriented, like I'm thinking of a backstabbing rogue or a paladin. Like, positioning on where you are on the battlefield is your role. Like, and that's okay to spend your turn moving. Even a rogue, I'm thinking of them in particular, like spending 3 turns to move to do a backstab that's going to end the battle.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And also, let's be honest, sometimes some battles and some combats can be a slog and take a lot of time because a lot of people are doing that checklist type of play.
Yeah.
And so if someone's like, hey, I did my turn, and that's why I love this group so much, is because so many of them are like, yep, did my turn, move on to the next thing. They keep the pace moving, and that's good for everybody at the table, including the DM. And so I would love to reward Spike and the player there for making that go quickly and move on to the action. Although maybe some narration of heroic music as they're charging into battle,
right? Yeah,
would really help make that a heroic moment even more.
Yeah, that's interesting. Your point about the checklist stages. I mean, that was I think something that had come up in other conversations I'd seen recently. I guess it was Mike Merle, who was like a lead designer of I think one of the lead designers of 2014, had recently been on a few shows talking about like how the bonus action, the spirit of that bonus action that was introduced, is changed in that it was supposed to be there to delineate some rules, but actually speed things along, and it's been taken to like if I'm not using my bonus action, I failed somehow, which which kind of slows the game down. I guess there's a spectrum, right? A slow game versus like you want a speedy game, but you don't want it to be just like I swing my axe, your turn. And I think that there's people who critique the games from both sides, right? Like first edition was too simple, and then if it goes too complicated, it's too complicated, right? It depends, and it probably mostly depends on who you're playing with and what style they like.
That's always true for sure. Like if everybody's having fun at the table and wants that type of slower pace, follow your bliss. Make that be the case. For me, I prefer much more cinematic feeling around battles, and so someone who takes their turn says, "I swing my axe, I do this damage." As a DM, I'd love to narrate what they do, and I'm moving on to the next thing in 15 seconds. And that's good to me because it feels like, all right, that's that series of shots in the cinematic battle. Let's move on to the next series of shots. And then you think about the battle as a whole and moving in parts rather than turn, end of turn, start of turn, end of turn, right? And, I love every style of DM. So again, this is not a thing on that, but when DMs are like, okay, you've done your move, you've done your action. Have you done any bonuses? Are you sure you're done with your bonuses? Are you sure you're done? That's where I'm like, no, dude, just move, just keep it going.
Right. That's a good point.
It feels more, at least to me, it feels like it's a frenetic action that I'm being a part of it.
Yeah, sure. Keep it going. I do like that. That was it. Those are the clips. Greg Tito,
awesome stuff.
I was thinking about this. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I definitely want to play with these guys. When I started working on this channel, one of the things that I thought about, like, what will I consider a success? And I think it really was like, because, making it big as a YouTube person is you can't count on that at all. And I it's likely not going to happen. And that's not the main reason I'm doing it. But I think one of the things I really wanted to do was to be able to be part of conversations with people in gaming who I liked and respected. And like, this is it. I'm doing it. I got Greg Tito on my show. Man, it's really, really nice to have you here. Thank you so much for making time. And I'm so happy that you're in gaming, and I got to go buy some Lorcana cards for my kid. Like, I'm excited. Thank you so much for being
awesome.
Here, Greg.
No problem. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, for enjoying the play and advocating for it. And I love the tactical feel of dissecting all the moves and stuff like that. It's such a great way to think about combine my loves of sports and fantasy gaming in one. Yeah. And so it's really coming together. So I respect everything you're doing, Paul, and thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks again. I'm going to mention this to Shelly when I see her next, how awesome it was to see Daryl Two Shoes.